That's how he got such a short sentence because he rapped. He's a rapper.
All right, so everybody close your comic books real quick. We're going to have a short-ish little lecture, and then we are going to do the constructor response. Hey, turn around, close your comic books, let's go. Huh? Yeah, it should still be there. It should still be there. Just close it most of the way. Yeah. Right.
I just work on it after.
Yeah, you can work on it after, but go ahead and close it. Oh, there you go. Put it up on the thing and face it away from you. There you go. There you go. All right. So, close your comic book. Come on. We're gonna have a short little lecture, and then you're gonna do the constructed response. It's only like 4 questions. So, huh? No, it's actually just 1 question, but there's 4 separate questions. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they can't just be like, there's 4 questions and there's 4 questions. But it says there's only 1 question, and then you scroll down and there's 4 different answer boxes.
It's like 20 questions.
It's not like 20. Let's not go that crazy. But we're talking about renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So natural resources today. They're going to go through a couple things. I don't know if we'll watch a video or not. But they're going to go through fossil fuels, rocks and minerals, soil. Then we get into renewable resources. And I think they have talked a little bit about energy and renewable resources. So we'll go through those really briefly, and then you'll start to answer questions for the constructed response. I am making a video because we got a couple people at home now, so they can use the video a little bit. So remember, non-renewable resources are. It's not as straightforward as it says. The Earth has produced oil and gas before. And coal before. It just happens over such a long time span that if we use it all up, it's not going to recreate in a human lifespan or in several human lifespans. And so it's not going to be able to be renewed for us. So for all intents and purposes, it's not renewable. At some point in time, millions and millions and millions of years from now, maybe we'll get some more if the conditions are right, but we can't control that. So non-renewable resources are going to be considered fossil fuels. Coal, petroleum, meaning oil, gas, natural gas. All of these are things that we cannot create more of. We have a limited amount, and once it's gone, it's gone. And not only that, there's limited amounts depending on what country you happen to be in. Here in the United States, we're fairly lucky because we have a decent amount of oil and gas. Not a lot, but enough. We got to work pretty hard to get it. Texas has some. It's getting less and less and less, and we're having to work harder and harder to get that. But we do find new stuff all the time. But lately it's been more natural gas than like heavy oils. So like the drilling that happened around here 5 or 10 years ago, like the Barnett Shale, it was more natural gas than oil was. So we do still have some oil plays over in West Texas. There's still some wells that pump around here. But in general, we kind of know what we have. We try to save as much as we can and not drill everything all at once because, 20, 30, 40 years from now, we're still going to need to drill oil and gas. Just on a side note, we do a lot of celebrating sometimes when we become like the number 1 oil and gas producer in the world. Anytime we're number 1 at producing oil and gas, it's literally just because the Middle East lets us. Y'all need to know, just that this is one thing I teach you from this class. Know that the Middle East has a ridiculous amount of oil. They have oil fields over there that they just basically have chosen not to drill. If they decided to drill it, it would be bigger than any oil field we have in the United States right now today. And just because they have to put a little bit of effort into it, they're like, nah, it's not worth it. They don't have to do horizontal drilling. They don't have to do fracking. They don't have to work very hard for their oil and gas. They have a ridiculous amount of oil and gas. Yeah.
Some of the reason they don't drill because the reserves are found on the Holy Land.
That depends on what you're talking about. Yes and no. For the most part, I'm going to say no. There's probably a little bit of that, but it's not going to be the vast majority of their oil supplies. Literally, they don't have to drill it. And to be fair, if they did, it would lessen the oil prices, and it wouldn't necessarily be a good thing for them. Hey, y'all be quiet. Pay attention. Is your Chromebook closed? All right, y'all be quiet. So like the other day, I was telling y'all that there's like a whole bunch of gold in the ocean. Did we talk about that? Yeah, there's a lot of gold in the ocean. It'd be nice if one person could find a way to get that gold out. But if you did, you would overload the gold market, and gold would not be as expensive as it is now. And so, yeah, you'd get some money out of it. You wouldn't get as super rich as you think, because as soon as you discover that, gold prices are going to plummet. And so that's actually what the oil and gas industry and OPEC does, is they limit production of fossil fuels, not just to save some of them and make sure we don't run out, but also to keep the prices nice and high, so they're constantly getting an influx of money. So it's kind of a game they play, and we're all just the pieces that they play the games with. So know that coal, petroleum, natural gas, over millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, it does slowly get kind of replenished in the right circumstances, possibly, but you can't count on that. And so it is a non-renewable resource. And the more we burn of them, the more we also kind of affect the environment. And so they talk a little bit about what needs to be formed for oil and gas. I don't know. Were y'all taught that oil and gas was like dinosaur bones? Yeah, that's not. No. Oil and gas is old plant material and plant matter. There's not enough dinosaurs in all of the existence to create enough piles of bones to build up large oil and gas reservoirs. And even if there were, they wouldn't produce the right stuff. Oil and gas comes from plant matter. They come from highly tropical areas where plant matter just piles up on top of each other over and over and over again. Coal, if you get down like to coal, it's been overly cooked. And so when we look for oil and gas, we actually talk about the kitchen and how much it's been cooked. If you have all this plant matter and it hasn't gone deep enough and hasn't gotten hot enough, you're not going to produce oil and gas. If you go a little bit too deep and a little bit too hot, you get away from oil and you get more into gas and natural gas, which is still fine. We still make money off of it, but gas is way cheaper than oil. And so if you can get the nice oil, the thick petroleum, that's going to be better. And then if it gets fully overcooked, there's no oil and gas left, you're going to have something like a coal. It's a little bit more complicated than that. You have different environments and different ways that these things are performed or produced. But in essence, that's what you're looking at. You have to have the right materials go in. They have to be subducted down to the bottom, and they have to kind of endure in the right environment for a long time to produce that oil and gas, which is why we can't just make more, and we can't just hope that more comes around. It has to be done in the right kind of environment. They talk a little bit about oil spills. It's one of the things we need to be aware of. It's oil companies seem to be very I don't know the word, but accepting of making a lot of spills and losing a lot of oil. One of the things they're talking about now, has anybody ever been out in West Texas and seen the oil field stuff? Have you seen them burning the flare stacks? That's literally, like, for you and me, for them, they're billion-dollar companies. They don't care about that. For you and me, that's literally money, just like literally being burned out into the atmosphere. It's not petroleum. It's not the highly concentrated oil and gas that they like. And so they just let it escape and set it on fire so it doesn't cause even more problems as it kind of escapes. And they just let it burn. And there's been people who try to put laws into effect to make them spend just a little bit more money to capture that gas instead of just wasting it, because it's literally gas that we could use. So we're trying to convince these big companies to actually be a little bit more conservative and not just waste things like that. Rocks and minerals are also a non-renewable resource. We get a lot of our metals, like if you're using platinum for your wires, if you're using platinum for batteries or lithium for batteries, or It goes a long way beyond just jewelry. That comes out of rocks. Most metals outside of like silver and gold and maybe some copper, you don't get like a solid metal coming out of the ground. They actually have to basically wipe out an entire mountain, process it through a chemical plant, dissolve all the stuff they don't want away, and it leaves the metal behind. So one of the things that you have to be concerned of is how much rock do you have left? Where are you going to get this? There's very limited deposits of lithium and platinum and other metals like that around the world. And for the most part, they're not here. So when you talk about advancing in technologies and raw materials, the United States is not going to be a provider of those futuristic materials. We are going to be a consumer. And so it's kind of important for us, hopefully very soon, to kind of get some good recycling measures going with metals, because we do waste a lot of metals, especially when it comes to technology. How many of y'all take your old TVs like up to Best Buy to be recycled? Like almost nobody. You just throw them in the trash. Yeah. Old cell phones. What do you do with your old cell phones?
Trade them in.
Yeah, trading them in is actually becoming better now, and they're at least going to go back into the supply chain and be recycled in some way, even if they're not resold. And so trading in is good, but know that some nicer cities, not like Waxahachie or Ennis or anything like that, will have electronics recycling, where you can take your stuff up and they will send it to a processing plant where it's torn apart and they take the good stuff out. Trading up your cell phones is a good way to keep it from just going to the dump. But
things like the mall, like where you can go up to it and like put your phone in there and give you some like cash for your phone.
Yes, yeah. And so just think about those kind of things. If you can get cash back for it, like a trade-in or a disposal at the mall or something, do that. But at the very least, I know like Best Buy and Waxahachie has just a little box near the front door where you can dispose of old batteries and electronics and stuff like that. I don't know if y'all can see this. This is only 35 seconds. We'll play this. Look at the size of this mine. Hold on. Let me get the speaker going up here. If you've never seen like a deep mine, like a rock mine, where they just literally level a mountain, it's pretty crazy.
Out so that miners can reach important mineral resources like gold,
So look at that
silver,
hole
and copper.
in the ground that we've created.
This mine in Utah is the largest open pit mine in the world, the largest hole ever dug. It's 2 miles across and over a half-mile deep. Our cities are built of materials we've taken from the earth. Iron, stone, and glass, which is made from silica, come from the Earth's crust.
Well, that was it. But it wasn't a great little piece of footage there. But the open hole mines are vast and crazy, crazy big. And we have to destroy a lot of rock. In Pennsylvania, they just basically chop the mountains down. And you go from literally like a mountain to just a flat part of the land. As they get all the coal and all the steel out. So soil is another. So soil, it's a little different. Soil is a renewable resource. It is decomposing material of rocks and other living things. It depends on what layer of the soil you're talking about. But in another way, it takes a long time for that to be renewed, especially if you're talking about the rock material. You have to wait for weathering and erosion to happen. And on top of that, gravity and erosion are always trying to take all of our land and push it into the ocean. If you give it enough time, all of the land will be chopped down, and we'll basically have like water world. But that's not within a human lifetime, but you do have to be aware of what your soil is doing, where it's going. I've mentioned this before. That's probably the reason y'all have a bunch of ponds around here in Palmer. Because you have a lot of farmland. The farmers don't want their soil washing into the creeks and eventually going down into some other county or going away. Like they pay good money to keep nutrients in those soil. And in between crops, if it rains, you don't want all your soil just washing away. Over several years, you can lose quite a bit of it. So they put in stock ponds at the edge of their property. The stock ponds catch the water slows down, and a large portion of your soil kind of comes out. and then every so many years, you dredge it out with a backhoe and spread it back over your fields. And it kind of helps you retain soil and water, so you don't have to spend as much money buying new stuff. So soil is also considered a non-renewable resource, although the turnaround time for soil is going to be a lot less than rocks and oil and gas. You should be able to get some soil created. Does anybody have a compost pile at home? Yeah, it doesn't take too long to take like leaves and stuff and old food waste and kind of turn it into a reasonable amount of compost. So renewable resources, we're talking about wind power, groundwater, biomass as far as wood, solar energy, hydroelectric energy, so damming up rivers and using gravity and the flow of water to create electricity. And you can even go down to at the bottom down here, I think they have geothermal energy. So power plants run by the heat of the inside of the earth, like they have up in Iceland. Has anybody stopped over on Iceland on their way to Europe?
I'm gonna go to Europe for the
I'm just
weekend.
asking. Some people have. I haven't. But yeah, if your parents got some money and you're on your way to Europe, one of the big things now, you save a little bit of money. You have a stopover in Reykjavik, Iceland, and they have this crazy geothermal plant. So they dig down into the earth and use the heat from a nearby volcano to heat up water. That water goes through and powers a geothermal plant. And then the wastewater goes out into a pool, and they made like this giant swimming pool lagoon where people can go swim in like the geothermal wastewater, which is actually really nice. It's supposed to be nice for your skin or something. I don't know. But it's like a big tourist attraction kind of thing. Hey, quiet, pay attention. So one of the questions they talk about, if coal is made from old plants and dead trees, why is wood, which they're calling biomass, us burning wood, why is burning wood a renewable resource where coal is a non-renewable resource? It's the amount of time.
Because we can grow
Coal, yeah, we can grow more wood very quickly. Coal is going to take millions and millions and millions of years to be reproduced, and we can't even affect that. We can like cut down a bunch of trees and leave them in a swamp. We can't ensure that that's ultimately going to become coal.
So with all this science and stuff, we aren't able to like make coal. Like we can't like.
Oh, you can, just not in enough quantities and for cheap enough that it's worth it. Like you can go into a lab and in like a little furnace, mix the right materials together with wood and certain other chemicals and keep them compressed with enough heat that you can like recreate coal. But it's costing you too much money to make it worth burning to make electricity, which is essentially the only thing we use coal for. We burn it in coal-fired power plants. We use the heat that we get from burning it to make electricity. And power is not that expensive, especially now with wind power and solar power kind of coming up. We're moving away from coal because they we just don't need as much of it. Have y'all seen the big like blades for the turbines going down the highway sometimes?
Those are
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, they're real big. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
how like they're made. They're made from like little tiny cubes of wood.
Uh,
They're so light.
yeah, they're very, very light. A lot of it is like carbon fiber on the outside, and they're
But, like,
empty
yeah,
on the
like-
inside. Yeah,
Like the frame is just like a bunch of pieces of wood.
yeah, real light wood. I don't know exactly what type of wood they use, but yeah. And they even have a little video there. We're not gonna watch it, but yeah, they break sometimes if the storms get too big and they don't get locked down. They start spinning too fast, and they have. You can look up videos. Some of the videos are faked, but you can look up videos of them having issues. The wind like overcomes it, and one of them either snaps off or the brakes kind of burn up, and the motor inside catches fire. So it can be kind of bad, but we're building our wind energy infrastructure and trying to learn different things about those. So wind energy, geothermal energy. We're starting to figure out how to like capture the tidal energy of tides coming in and out and using that to create power. I watched a little video of them like making these barrels that they put out in the ocean that have electric motors in them, and as the barrels go up and down in the tide and in the waves of the ocean, they produce energy. So we're trying to figure stuff out like that. I know there's a couple houses in town that have solar panels on the roofs. I'm seeing more and more houses in my neighborhood that have solar panels on the roof. So we're getting there. We're getting there. I think that's about it. Let me take a look at the assignment and see if there's anything I want to add to that. Oh, and I will assign the reading if you want to go through and do the reading too. In fact, let me do that right now so everybody has it. Assign today and tomorrow.
Oh, is that what we're working on tomorrow?
We're not gonna do anything tomorrow. I'm just keeping it open in case anybody needs to finish it through tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the last day.
Huh?
We're not gonna be back.
That's what y'all say. I mean, some of y'all are even getting so crazy in activity period. Some students were like, "We're not even gonna come to school tomorrow. They're just gonna cancel tomorrow." It's like, y'all are crazy. Maybe you're right, but y'all are being crazy. Let's see. So the reading is assigned and the constructed response is assigned. And let me click on the constructed response. Like I said, only one question, but it's actually 4 questions. I don't know why they do that. It ain't that bad. Many global problems are caused by our dependence on fossil fuels. Describe how fossil fuels form, including petroleum and coal. So you got to have plant matter. It's got to be compacted. It's got to be pushed down and have rocks piled up on top of it and be underneath the earth with a lot of heat and pressure for a long period of time. Explain why fossil fuels are considered non-renewable resource because of that long period of time. It takes too long for them to be able to be renewed. And we don't really have any control over that, so we can't make it happen any faster or ensure that it happens at all. Identify 3 different non-renewable natural resources and explain how each is used to meet human energy needs, such as heat, electricity, or transportation. So there's lots of different non-renewable resources. They talked about petroleum, which can be petroleum, natural gas, coal. They also talked about soil. They talked about rocks and minerals, which are going to be more importantly metal. Metal's very important for a lot of our construction. So that one shouldn't be too bad. Evaluate how the following human activities impact Earth structures, Earth systems. I mean, mining, we're digging huge holes in mines. We're like chopping down mountains. We're clearing trees for all of that. And on top of that, we have to build big chemical plants. If you've ever been down to Houston and seen the oil refinery plants, they're huge and produce a lot of off-put waste. So mining is going to be a big deal. Energy use, as we burn these fossil fuels, they're going to create CO2. They're going to add stuff to the atmosphere. Water use, we need water to live and survive. So the more we use it, the more likely it could run out. There's lots of problems with overwater use. What's in Ennis? Is that Bardwell? You ever seen Bardwell Lake go pretty low? I know Waxahachie does sometimes. If we get a drought, the lakes go down real low because all the lakes in Texas are used for drinking water. Unless it's like a small lake that's kind of protected, every single lake in Texas is used for drinking water. So there's a couple aquifers in the state, but in general, the vast majority of our drinking water comes from lakes. Land use, such as buildings and roads. Obviously, we gotta add roads. We gotta do stuff. And on top of that, if you've ever lived in an area that has mining or oil and gas drilling, the trucks that run back and forth on there ruin the roads and give you a lot of potholes too. Why is wood considered a new renewable resource, but coal, which is derived from wood, is not? And then analyze. Well, don't just put the word timing. That's not going to get you full credit. All right. Analyze whether gas, plastic, or aluminum is the most economic choice from discovery to disposal based on the following factors. Technological advances, resource type, concentration and location of resources, waste disposal and recycling, environmental costs. So for this one, glass, plastic, or aluminum is the most economic choice from discovery to disposal based on the following factors. I'm going to go with glass, and here's why. There's several, looking at all of these, first off, aluminum, aluminum does not exist like in pure deposits. Like you will never find like a chunk of aluminum just sitting on the ground. Aluminum, we break up rocks that have maybe like 2, 3, at the most, probably 5% aluminum in them. And we have to pass them through chemical plants to kind of get that aluminum separated out. So aluminum requires a lot of work to actually get out of the ground. It is more recyclable, but it's going to be difficult to actually get that out, and you're going to spend a lot of money doing that. Where glass, you just need to have a lot of silica. You can get beach sand, you can find high silica rock content, and so you should be able to get glass out very, very easily. Plastic comes from oil and gas, still a lot of money being reused. The problem with plastics is we have almost no ability to recycle plastics. We try to use them to keep them from going into the dumps, but plastic can never be recycled to the same level. It's always downcycled. So if you have like a nice plastic case for something and you send it to recycling, it's going to be used to make like some ugly piece of plastic, maybe used for industrial purposes. It never gets recycled to the same level. You're always making worse and worse products until eventually the plastic's not usable anymore. Aluminum and glass can be recycled almost perfectly. You can melt metal down, take all the impurities out, and you'll get a nice, perfect piece of metal back. Glass is the same way. I don't know if anybody knows anybody that's worked there. I used to work in a glass factory in Waxahachie called Cardinal. And literally, like every piece of broken glass, we would shovel into a dumpster, and they would take it back to their other factory, melt all of it down, and reuse it for more glass. And so they wasted very, very little glass there because you could just melt it down and make more glass out of it. So out of the three, I would say glass is the easiest to make and the best recycling possibility for same level recycling, and probably has the least environmental costs. So out of those three, I would pick glass first, aluminum maybe a close second to middle second, and then plastic's going to be way down on the list. So also know that all plastics come from oil. We don't get plastic materials from anywhere else. They come from oil wells.
So we would just put number 1 glass, number 2 aluminum.
No, just talk about basically say that it's going to be glass. Tell me it's because it's easier to manufacture and has less environmental costs they said environmental costs, less environmental costs, and it's going to have the best ability to be recycled into the same type of products, just as good products. So, and that'll be your assignment for today. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you're at home or out in ISS on your way to AEP, have a nice day.